I have to tell you that I always feel it a privilege to speak to this Olam. It's a chashuv, just a chashuv I'm learning every night and learning halacha l'maisa. And as much as I find it a privilege always to speak here, this time I felt extra privilege. The fact that you're learning Hilchos Krias HaTorah, so it's mamash amazing mitzvah. Nobody learns it, but everybody needs it, minimum 4 times a week, right? So, the shilohs come up nonstop, and barely anybody learns it. So it's very, very chashuv indeed. I will tell you, I heard from Rabbi Barrel Wine. I heard this, I think, 30 years ago from him. He told a Maisa that I believe he heard directly from the Satmar Rebbe himself. Satmar Rebbe, when he used to go down to Miami, used to visit Rabbi Wine. So he always tells the stories. Rabbi Wine at the time was clean shaven, wearing light colored suits. But the Satmar Rebbe would come down. He says, a Rav in the Makom. He'd visit the Rav. He might, as a matter of fact, he made sure to use Rabbi Wine's mikvah, that he should, show his oil and the mikvah is kosher. So they developed a relationship. They were actually quite close. And Rabbi Barrel Wine said the Satmar Rebbe told him he first became a Rav, he was 17 years old. And in the Kollel, when he became a Rav, the minig in many Kollels in Europe was that when the Rav came into town, he went and visited the Shachtim, and all the Shachtim would line up, and they would show their chalif to the Rav. He would inspect it. How do you show authority over the kashrus in the Kollel? So you inspect the chalif of each of the Shachtim. So he said it was a Thursday, the day that he went to visit the Shachtim, and there was one elderly shochet there who refused to show him his chalif. A little bit tense, it's a young Rav, 17 years old, elderly shochet with a white beard, refused to show him his chalif. Post haste. So he said to the Satmar Rav, he said, tell me, how frequently does a shochet have to chazer hilchos shchita? Satmar Rav said, every 30 days, till you know it, 30 days. He said, tell me, how frequently does a Rav have to chazer hilchos Krias HaTorah? Satmar Rebbe said, no number. So he said, I'll tell you what, you go home, you chazer hilchos Krias HaTorah, come back to me, I'll share my chalif. Satmar Rebbe said he went home that Thursday night and he stayed up all night. He stayed up all night going through Hilchos Krias HaTorah. That Shabbos, his first Shabbos in the big shul in town, there was a Shabbos in the Sefer Torah. They called him up to a Rav's worst nightmare. Whenever the Ola and the Baal Kori and they're starting the handle and the hak over there, then the Gabbai, they're coming over looking like this, looking like that. Like, please don't call me up, please don't call me up, please don't call me up, please go. Okay, all right, call me up. It's called the Satmar Rebbe up. What do you do? So he knew exactly what to do, because he had spent all Thursday night chazering the halachos. So he went back Sunday, and he went to the shach, and he showed him the chalif. And the Satmar Rebbe said, from that sheikh, I learned how to be a Rav. Learned how to be a Rav. It's important, to know these halachos, and to know how to apply them. So I'll tell you, I was asked to give a title to this year, and my first thought on a title for this year was everything that can go wrong. But then I realized I have a flight there to Yisrael Sunday night, and I want to make the flight. It's not shaykh. It's not even close to shaykh, everything that can go wrong. But I will tell you that Kimat and Hilchos Krias HaTorah, everything that can go wrong, does go wrong. And you have to be able to, on the spot, at least have some mahalech in what to do. So I want to start you off with a Tshuvas Noda B'Yehuda. Mamish in Yonah Diyom. The Madura Tinyan and Siman Yud Aleph. Noda B'Yehuda tells a mice of it happened by him in the Bachar Minyan. A Bachar Minyan is not a new thing. So Minyan Bachurim. And he tells the following unbelievable mice of Siman Yud Aleph in Orach Chaim in Madura Tinyana. Says that the Koreh read the week's parasha, Kedasu Kedin, and then afterwards, instead of bringing him the Sefer Torah for Rosh Chodesh, they brought him the Sefer Torah for Parsha Shkol. 3 Sfarim this week. It's Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Parsha Shkol. They brought him the wrong Sefer. And he started to read it, opened up the Sefer, started to read Parsha Shkol. The middle of the Kriya, he chaps, he's in the wrong place. Supposed to read Parsha Chodesh. So right then, they send somebody to the Noda B'Yehuda study. He says, Ubo etzli lechedri lishol. What do? Do you stop? Do you take out the other sefer? Are you go with this sefer? Do you continue? What do you do? So maybe it says, I paskind, finish Parashat Shkolim because you started already. Then read the Maftir. You'll read Shal Rosh Chodesh because this is the Shvi. Read the Maftir Shal Rosh Chodesh. And then, what HaTorah do you do? So maybe it said, I paskin should do the HaTorah for Hashemayim Kisi, for Rosh Chodesh. Why? Came to Solik Minyana, because that's the Inyana to Solik Minay. That's the last thing you read. That was the Psak of Noda B'Yehuda. He says, I gave this Psak halacha on the spot, and then I thought about it. Is the right Psak or not? That's one of the most painful things in the Rabbanah. Sometimes you give a Psak halacha on the spot, and you actually ma'ayin b'davar. And then, I'll never forget, I once had in my shul a Maisa, so crazy Maisa. It's not Hilchos Krias HaTorah, Hilchos Nesias Kapayim. It was Yom Tov morning, and there was one Kohen in the shul, and he was hard of hearing, and he got up there to do Nesias Kapayim, and he went up by Ritzei. The Shluch Tzibur hadn't gotten to Modim yet, and the Kohen thought he'd gotten already to Birchos Kohanim, and he made the bracha. Now what? Right? So there's no time like Navi says, Binosi Pasfarim. What do you do now? Right? On the spot, what do you got to do? Right? So you got to make a call, yes, Birchos Kohanim, not Birchos Kohanim, wait, etc. So I'll say that for when we learn Hilchos Birchos Kohanim. But in the meantime, Navi says, I looked at this far, and L'chora, he says, at first blush, I got it wrong. Because there's a Ramah. It's him in Tov Reish Pei Daled. And he says, this is Shabbos Chanukah. Im Tov Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Chanukah. Im Tov Hisl L'Kros B'Shal Chanukah. Tzorach L'Hafsik L'Kros B'Shal Rosh Chodesh. And it's the Avudraham. The Avudraham Paskin, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Chanukah. Mine is the same Shaila. So instead of going to Rosh Chodesh first, you went to Chanukah first. And then afterwards, you realized, he says, you got to stop. It's Mamish, the exact same Shaila. Pardon? Oh, beautiful. So, says the Noda B'Yehuda, first of all, V'taz is Cholek in Avudraham. And V'taz says, this klal of Tadir V'She'enu Tadir Kodim is L'Chatchila. But it's not a din that if I started the Eino Tadir first, I should then be mafsik and then go to the next, go to the Tadir. No. I finish the Eino Tadir, then I go to the Tadir afterwards. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, he thinks even the Avudraham would be maskim here. Why would the Avudraham be maskim here? Says because this is very different in that by Chanukah you're correct. Chanukah is not so much a chovas hayom. Like the Gemara says on Chav Tes and Megillah, ein mashkichim b'Chanukah kol eker. Meaning if you recite the Kriya entirely with Rosh Chodesh, and you missed out on Chanukah, okay, it's not such a big deal. Chanukah is not a chovas Kriya mamish. You're reading the Parashas Nesiyim. It's not in Yana Diyoma. Yes, it's a minhag that we have to read the Parashas Nesiyim over Chanukah. What Kriya should you read? But it's not mamish the chovas hayom. Parashas Shkolim is mamish the chovas hayom. So even the Avudraham would agree that when it comes to Parashas Shkolim, you would go ahead and you would finish the Parashas Shkolim, then go to Rosh Chodesh afterwards. But then the HaTorah says the Noda B'Yehuda. So he says, I was b'simcha, I found a levush, and I found a Mordechai. Because levush and the Mordechai both say the same thing. And they both say that when Parashas Shkolim falls on Rosh Chodesh, like it does this year, so why do we read the HaTorah for Parashas Shkolim, not for Rosh Chodesh? Because he says, Mishum Desliku, mi Parashas Shkolim. So even though Rosh Chodesh is Tadir, and by rights, like Tosos asks in Shabbos, we should read the HaTorah that's Tadir. No, because it's my Desliku Minei, it's that which you completed the Krias HaTorah in, Madasayim. So, but says the Noda B'Yehuda, Kol Zel Reisi B'Rega B'Shas Maisa. Says that was all my psak at the Shas Maisa. Mashma that all this cheshbon and the Ramal and the Avudraham, etc. was that was on the spot before I had a chance to look at any sforim. The godless of the Gdol Yisrael is just mind blowing. If you read the Hakdama of the Moruk Tzia to his sefer on the tour, so he writes that he wrote the sefer because all he had in front of him was the tour in Bais Yosef. And if you read the sefer, it's Hekev in Shas Bavli, Yerushalmi, Sifra, Sivito, Sefta, Mechilta, all the Rishonim, all the Achmanim, all the Poskim, etc. So all I had in front of me was the tour in Bais Yosef. So if all I had in front of me is the tour in Bais Yosef, then all I have in front of me is the tour in Bais Yosef. That's it. He had everything in front of him. So he says like this. He says, then I found the Mordechai in Megillah. Perik B'Neir, he says, Gam Kein Tamanal, but then he says something else. He says that there's a machlokes in Parsha Shkolim what the HaTorah should be. Right? First, he says, that klal, that maftir holich achar Parsha Kor Bachrona. V'yesh cholkim ba'omrim lahaftir b'shel Rosh Chodesh. Some say no. Some say Taka Parsha Shkolim, you should be maftir this week in Rosh Chodesh. Why? Tadir Rishinu, Tadir Kodem. Okay? Says the Mordechai, okay, I'll give you two svaros. He says, Rosh Chodesh Tevis that falls on Shabbos. So Masechah Sofrim says you're maftir b'shel Rosh Chodesh. Same thing. Rosh Chodesh. And he says, Chaim Heiter of Shmuel, maftir b'shel Rosh Chodesh. But that's not how we're knowing. We're knowing to be maftir b'shel Chanukah. Chaim Chodesh Shabbos, etc. Siddur of Amram. And then he says the following. He says, I'll tell you why. He says, we're maftir b'neiros de Zecharia on Shabbos Chanukah. Pursuing Nisa Aldif, Parsha Shkolim, we're not. Parsha Shkolim is different. He says, I'll tell you why. He says, Kollel b'Shkolim v'gam shel Rosh Chodesh. Parsha Shkolim covers both. In other words, the HaTorah for Parsha Shkolim, there's a svar the Mordechai says to say, the HaTorah for Parsha Shkolim is Kollel both Shkolim and Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, he says, I have both things. I have my Disolik Mineh, the last thing I read. Plus, I have, on top of that, the fact that I can get the Taldir in there. Because it also covers Rosh Chodesh. So he says, if that's the case, right? Then I made a mistake. Because I said, do Hashemayim Kisi for Rosh Chodesh, the last thing you read. But the Mordechai is telling you the reason that you read this Shabbos, the HaTorah for Shkolim, is because the HaTorah for Shkolim is Kollel, both Rosh Chodesh and Shkolim as well. And if that's the case, so then even if you read the HaTorah for Rosh Chodesh, or the Parsha Rosh Chodesh last rather, should read the HaTorah for Parsha Shkolim. Says the Nod Behuda now. He says, I thought at first I made a mistake, but then, I realized I was correct. Why? It says like this, where do you find what the Mordechai is saying, a remez for Rosh Chodesh in the Parsha of HaTorah of Shkolim, right? So you find the remez because it's Chadesh v'avei mitruma chadasha, right? Because we have the idea that on Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we're going to be Chadesh and bring from the New Year's Truma, which is why we read Parsha Shkolim now, a Hakdama for the Parsha Shkolim. So therefore, the Kesef Nafshos Erchos should be Yoyoda b'shikle bedek habayis. In Yoyoda, which we're going to read this Shabbos for the HaTorah, the Shkolim we're talking about there is not the Shkolim for Korbanos even. It's a Shkolim for bedek habayis. Right? Yoyoda Cohen is fixing up the Bais HaMikdash, collecting the Shkolim for bedek habayis. It says, so what the Mordechai is telling me is that since the HaTorah has Shkolim in it, and even though the Shkolim are Shkolim for bedek habayis, but Shkolim, same inyan. It's mirames to the Shkolim that we use for the Korbanos. And Shkolim that we use for the Korbanos is Chadesh v'avei mitruma chadasha. And that means it's mirames to Rosh Chodesh Nishan we started. And therefore it's Kollel, both Rosh Chodesh and Shkolim as well. Says the Nod Behuda, Memele, if that's the case, so I could say the opposite svar as well. Right? I could say the opposite svar to say that the HaTorah that we read for Parsha Shkolim is Vadai Kol Rosh Chodesh, and therefore, Rosh Chodesh rather, is therefore Vadai Kollel Shkolim. Why? What's the HaTorah of Rosh Chodesh? Hashemayim Kisi. What's Hashemayim Kisi? Right? So, Kol Hashem, Hashemayim Kisi, Ba'artz Adom Raglais. Matter of fact, I'm just writing my Torah for my shul bulletin before I came over here. So quoted the pasuk in Yeshaya, right? Is a Bais asher tivnuli? Or is there a Bais you can build for me? What does the Navi talk about in the HaTorah, Shemayim Kisi? Talks about the Korbanos. Right? All the Korbanos. Says the Nod Behuda. So if the fact that there's Shkolim mentioned in the Parsha of Shkolim, which would remind us of the Shkolim for the Korbanos, which reminds us of the Chadesh v'avei mitruma chadasha, which reminds us of Rosh Chodesh, is enough for the Mordechai to say that the HaTorah for Shkolim covers Rosh Chodesh, right? Then certainly the HaTorah for Rosh Chodesh, which talks about Korbanos, which is what the Shkolim are used for, is also Kollel Shkolim. And therefore says in the Yehuda, I was right in my Psak Halacha. In other words, they're reading Parsha Shkolim now, so what do? Finish Parsha Shkolim. Read Parsha Rosh Chodesh now. Now what should you do for the HaTorah? So there'd be a svara to argue, well, it should be the HaTorah for Rosh Chodesh, my desalik minei. Should be HaTorah for Rosh Chodesh, Tada B'Shina Tada Tada V'Kodesh. Be a svara to say no, because like the Mordechai is saying, the reason that you normally read the Shkolim is because it has Rosh Chodesh in it as well. Says in the svara, he knows senas. That Shkolim has Rosh Chodesh in it, more than Rosh Chodesh has Shkolim in it. And therefore, the Psak Halacha was correct. So I would strongly suggest that you make sure in your Shul Shabbos that the second Sefer Torah the Korah gets is the right one. But if he gets the wrong one, and he starts reading Parsha Shkolim second, so you'll know what to do. Finish it up, then go to HaChodesh, and then be lebedik. Be mamish lebedik. It would be, I don't know how you'd get quiet to get Krias HaTorah in, but be mamish lebedik. Wanna go to what is the big shaila in Krias HaTorah. Really, the biggest issue in Krias HaTorah, of course, is the constant shaila every single Shabbos, Monday, Thursday, etc., and that is a toast in Krias HaTorah. What happens when the Baal Koreh makes a mistake? So I know when I was a kid, we used to say it's like a sport in some shuls, right? Who can get the Baal Koreh? And so you're waiting. Can you be the one to correct him? I remember I was at a bar mitzvah many years ago. It goes back about probably 31 years ago. I was at a bar mitzvah on a Shabbos morning, and the Gabbai at the Bima, so he wanted to announce that no one should make corrections from their seats. All corrections will be made up here. But instead he announced no one should make corrections from their seats. He said all mistakes will be made up here. And Taki was misnabe ve'enu de'mai misnabe. He was right. Every mistake you could imagine was made up there. And they weren't corrected. The shaila becomes, when is there a halachic chiyuv to correct? When not? And is there room possibly at times to be more lenient, so to speak, in correcting, or maybe more machmir in kavod abrios? You have to be done always in these shilos, which is the chumrah. Is it a chumrah to be machmir on Krias HaTorah and assume either chovas hatzibur, and you're taking, on behalf of the tzibur, or maybe assume a chovas hayachid, and you have a chiyuv on yourself to be makbid, or is that a kula in kavod abrios if you have a Baal Koreh who's up there and struggling, etc. I have a son. So I'll tell you, I have a son who's a very talented Baal Koreh. Baruch Hashem. Now he lanes every Shabbos. He doesn't want to miss a week. But from the time he was bar mitzvah, he was a hogon lahachi. He was very much fit for that. When he was a young child, just past bar mitzvah, he was laning on a Yom Tov morning at the Ashkama Minyan by my shul. There was a guy there who was very medactic in Krias HaTorah. So he couldn't get 2 words out without the guy stopping him. He could get 2 words out. So he went 4 or 5 years without laning. Mamish went years without doing it because, is this guy's kpedos? I don't make the cheshbonos, who gets schar and who gets whatever. But this guy's kpedos took a talented young man who could lane and took him out of laning. So it took a lot, Kesef Yanis Sakol at the end of the day, going to make enough money off of it, so he'll go back to it, but you got to be smart. So the tour brings down the Sefer HaManik, very famous tour. Tour brings down the Sefer HaManik. The Sefer HaManik says, basically, don't correct anybody. He says that when it comes to Hilchos Krias HaTorah, so basically, he seems to say, any error that's made, Sefer Kuf Mem Bais, im Torah HaKori or Achazan HaMakre or so, Tov Shul HaGi Olav Al Shkogosov. Doesn't make a difference if it's the Ola, if it's the Koreh. Makes a mistake. Leave it alone. Why? Shelo Abirabim, Shelo Halbin Panov. Don't embarrass him. He says, Dafal Pi Shetaba Yotza Yedei Kriya. Made a mistake. Okay, so what? Still Yotze Kriya. What's his source? His source is the Medrash. Disa b'Medrash is a Medrash in Shir Hashirim. Shim Kollel Aaron Haron Yotza. Someone called Aaron Haron, he's still Yotzei. So you see that if you read the Torah and you don't get it correct, it's close is good enough. Horseshoes, hand grenades, and Krias HaTorah. It's good enough. That's the Sefer HaManig, although there is some question about what the Sefer HaManig actually means, which we'll get to in a minute. And then he brings down Rambam Zal, Kosov, Kara, Vita, Afilu B'diktuk, Os Achas, Machzirin Oso, Ad Shikrena B'diktuk. Rambam says no. Rambam says if someone made an error, even B'os Achas, you gotta go back, you gotta do it again until you read it B'diktuk. The Bais Yosef says from the Torah bringing down the Rambam second, is mashal, he's not passing like the Sefer HaManig, that he's passing like the Rambam, you have to go back. Rabbi Chaim Brisk held that the Rambam meant even in the Tamei HaMikra, the Trop. Rabbi Chaim would correct you and make you go back even for Trop. But you're going to lane in brisk, you know what you're getting into. You're gonna have to be careful. You're going to lane in brisk. But the Bais Yosef brings down the Rabbi Ibn Chaviv, very famous Rabbi Ibn Chaviv. Rabbi says, what are you talking about? I don't chap. How is the Torah bringing down the Sefer HaManig that if one is Toa, that he doesn't have to be Choser, when he brought down B'Shem Harosh, Shein Hatzibur Yotzin B'Kriyas HaBilti Yodea. The Torah brought down earlier from the Rosh that Tzibur is not Yotzei. If a guy doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't know what he's doing. So how do you tell me that Tzibur is not Yotzei B'Kriyas Bilti Ein Yodea? And here you're telling me that no, you are Yotzei with a Kriya that's not predictive, don't correct him. So he brings down two possible answers. The Meir ben Chaviv. One is b'diavad l'chatchila. Note when the Rosh says earlier that ein tzibur yotzei, mi she'eno rabilti yodeh rather, he's talking about l'chatchila, meaning don't put up a guy to lane who can't lane. So a little bit of a difficult Meir ben Chaviv, because l'maisa the lashon of ein tzibur yotzei sounds like it's even b'diavad, but okay, that's one possibility. And here he's saying, okay, it happened. He read it, and you don't want to be malbim b'rabim, and you yotzei anyway. So it's good. The second possibility is that maybe there's a chiluk between a tos she'ein bo shinu inyan and a tos she'esh bo shinu inyan. Maybe there's a chiluk between a tos where it changes the meaning versus a tos that doesn't change the meaning. You could have a tos that will change the meaning. You could have a tos that won't change the meaning. It says, that's pshat. The Rosh is telling you that Tzibur is not yotzei if the guy makes errors that change the meaning of the words. But if he has errors that don't change the meaning of the words, so then you are vada yotzei the Krias HaTorah. And that is the machlokas mechaber Ramah, Rambam versus the Mari ben Chaviv's second pshat, here in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Mem Bais, right? The mechaber paskins like the Rambam straightforward. Kar v'tafil b'diktik os achas machzir so. Make a mistake even in one diktik os achas machzir. The post can bring down the meaning of the Sfaradim is taka like this, but not for Tamei HaMikra, unless the Trop would change the meaning as well. But there are times where an error in Trop would change the meaning if you're pausing in the wrong place. Even though taka, a very interesting idea, which is we had this past week's parsha, right? We have Chaim Shnayim Yishalem, or Chaim Shnayim Yishalem, if you're learning the Gemara, where in the Krias HaPasuk, right? It's Adseh Chaim, comma, Shnayim Yishalem. But the Gemara in Shul's darshans out of Chaim Shnayim Yishalem. You davka are Mishalem, Kederech Yuso. So oftentimes the Drush in the Gemara itself doesn't follow the Pisuk HaTaimim in the Mikra. But the post can bring down that for sometimes Piskei Taimim will make a difference. See, one of the problems with correcting, you have to actually know, right? In other words, you have to actually know when something's going to change the meaning and not. That would, Baal versus Baal, right? So, know which one it's supposed to be. That would be a time where just simply the emphasis would change the meaning drastically. Other times, it's a little more subtle, but you have to know. And you have to make a call on the spot, right? Meaning, do I yell out correction when the person I think I made a mistake, but I don't know if the mistake taka is changing the union or not. Maybe it doesn't. So you have to be done, again, which is a kpeda. Is it more of a kpeda to yell it out and potentially create a disturbance? I often say, and this is when I'm in a shul that's not mine. So my chavas das always is, that's why there's a guy up there, right? Usually he's wearing a long kapata, not not like a bum like me, right? He's wearing a long kapot. That's why Rabbi Beryl Wine used to say, again, he said, I was once with him at a Levi on a very hot day, so we get paid to wear the black jackets and the hats in the hot sunshine. Right? So you get paid for that. So there's a guy up there whose job it is to do this. So Weist Ois, if he didn't correct the guy, that means that he was done, that this is not a toast, it's choser. Okay, there are tears that are choser, there are tears that are not choser. So he was done, it's not a toast, it's choser. I also am always done. So if the Rav didn't correct the guy and I correct the guy, so I'm mavaz of two people. Right? I'm mavaz of the Baal Koreh, I'm mavaz of the Rav. Right? Why? So I can hear the Torah tell me not to mavaz of people. Right? I can have a Krias HaTorah. If the Torah tell me you should act with covered up reels, maybe you have to be done what the kaped is and what not. All the posts can bring down, of course, that when you correct somebody, you correct him benachas, you correct him, respectfully, very, you're gentle with him. And if you can, you do it b'tzina. I mean, you have a guy who taka blows off the laning. A guy who, sometimes you have it in certain shuls. A guy, he's makbid, he's medaktik, he has to lane every week. He can't read the words. And he blows off the lane, he doesn't prepare it. I'm not talking about somebody who, sincerely tries, which is a different cheshbon and a lot harder for the Rav to deal with. But a guy wants to lane every week, doesn't want to prepare the laning. So, okay, that's when, mishafskin or so bin azifa. Then, you shut him down. But you don't have a guy who's doing that, so you have to be careful about it. But again, it's a very important chiluk. Says the Ramah here, someone errs in the neginas hatam or the nikud, we don't make him repeat. Now, nikud, so all the achronim here say, the Mishnah brings it down, the Aruch HaSholem brings it down, all the achronim, Magen Avraham says it already, that nikud is lav dafka, meaning if taka, the toes in the nikud, is not mishana the inyan, which is often the case, then you would not be choser. But timches zochar amalek, instead of zecher amalek, so taka that brought about enough churban already, you'd be choser. Or lo savashel gdi b'chelev imo, instead of b'chalev imo, so that you'd be choser for, because that's a toes in the nikud that's mishtana inyan. But if it's not mishtana inyan, you're not going to be choser. So that's the basic psak halacha of the mechaber Ramah. Mechaber, again, every toes, unless it's in the time and it doesn't change the inyan. So you're going to be choser. And the Ramah says, no, if it's a toes that changes the inyan, which is either a word, taka, that's wrong, but again, he's being done, that Aaron and Horon without the Aleph doesn't change the inyan, which is a bit of a chiddush, but that doesn't change it. That's the psak of the Ramah here.
He still says to the guy,
right?
He said even when you're making not an akir, you must still just say to be goyer anyway.
Yeah, aval gorin bo. But again, gorin bo the post can bring down means when you got a guy who's blatant. It's not a guy who's trying hard, and he made a mistake. Or you got a shul. Sometimes you have a shul. People are sometimes tipshim shebetips. You got a shul where there's no Baal Koreh. You got one guy who's going to kumkum. He's going to work. He's going to work hard to lane. He's going to try as hard as he can to prepare it. And then what happens? He gets up there and everybody's shouting him down. So what's going to happen? So you'll have taka no Baal Koreh. And then where are you? Right? Then where are you? And then then it's your problem to get it. Gorin bo is a very hard get there to find. Right? Malbim pnei chavero barabim. I have to tell you, right? So here's a kivshana eish. Here's correcting the Baal Koreh. Right? Okay? Which one do you choose? So, mutav, I'm not saying you shouldn't correct the Baal Koreh ever, but has to be done b'seichel, b'chachma. Also, very often, especially if the Rav has a relationship with the Baal Koreh and he respects the Rav, so when the Rav corrects him, it's one thing, right? When the guy, the guy behind him corrects him, it's a different thing. So you have to know who can, who should not correct. But it needs to be somebody who's taka roy lekach and can be done. I will tell you, however, two very important things. Number one is the Bach does not at all subscribe to the schiluk of the Rebbe Chaviv, and the Bach says it's not true. The Bach says that, in fact, the Baal Hamanik Shita is that no toos is choser. No toos is choser. Make an error, makes no difference. He says, b'di'eved yotza. He says, vadai b'chol toos komar sheyotza. midikasa b'stam v'lo chilek. V'hachi no kibal hamanig. V'lo keramba. Says the Bach two things. Number one, he says that the Baal Hamanig Shita is, I don't care what error you made, not Choser. And the Emes says the Bach has a Chover in the Trumas Hadeshin. It's a fascinating thing that here the Ramah and Mechaber both don't bring down the Trumas Hadeshin. The Ramah does, cites the Trumas Hadeshin, but the Achronim ask on the Ramah because he doesn't cite the Trumas Hadeshin as the Trumas Hadeshin is written. The Trumas Hadeshin in the Psakim Uksavim Simin Kuf Pei Aleph. This Vasher Sha'altani B'Yishuv Sheyesh Sham Minyan V'Emi Shudei Likros B'Torah K'Halacha B'Diktuk U'B'Taimim. Right? Aval Yesh Kana Yodei Aval Olomid V'Chazul Leida Likros. You have a Yishuv, and there's nobody there in Orlando. We'll call the Yishuv Orlando. Right? You spend, I guess people don't spend Shabbosos there from here. It's good. Right? But people go down, whatever. They go down, they worry about a minyan afterwards, they worry about Kori afterwards, they worry about Kashrus afterwards, they worry about everything afterwards, right? So there's no Baal Kori. So what do? You got a Yishuv, no Baal Kori. Nirida filu hachi yikru b'torah k'moshekorim b'tzibur b'bracha kilchasa. Umavtirin b'navi. Says, do the whole thing. Read it the regular way. Mavtirin b'navi, bracha, etc. Says, even though the Rambam writes Shim Ta, Hakor b'tigu achad machzirin oso, right? But he says the Tur brings down the Ravya, who argues, Kos of De'ein lachlimo ulachziro al kach ma'isirai mi Medrash dimkora la'aru and horon yotza. And that Medrash also brings down, is brought down Agos Ashri, I'm sorry, in the name of the of Chaim Zerua in Ma'isha in Shabbos. Mashma b'pshitos de b'shas hatchak korin lechatchila b'derech zeh. And the Emes says the Ramah brings this down. The Ramah ends off with this Trumas Hadeshin at the end of Kuf Mem Beis, right? He said the Mechaber himself brings it down. The Yishuv Sheish Shaminyav Emi Yudei Likros B'Torah Kil Chasa B'Diktu V'Tayim Afilocha Yikru B'Torah B'Bracha Kil Chasa. It's a fascinating Mechaber because the Mechaber starts off Kuf Mem Beis with the Rambam, which is Kor V'Torah Afilu B'Diktu Zachas Machzir No So. Says the Trumas Hadeshin, according to the Rambam, this would not be the halacha. You would not then say to read B'Bracha in a Yishuv because nobody knows how to read properly. And the Mechaber ends off like the Trumas Hadeshin. No, you do. You read in there as the Sefer HaManig, the Rav Yo would hold you read. So the Bach says, not only is that the Shita of the Sefer HaManig, that's the Minig. The Bach is made in his time. So the Bach is also in Brisk. He's just a few hundred years before. The Bach is made in his time in Brisk. The Minig is not like the Shita of the Rambam, like the Sefer HaManig. You're not machzer anybody. The Eliyah Rabbah brings this down. The Eliyah Rabbah brings down the Bach, and he writes the following. He says the Eliyah Rabbah, he says, Achreisi bebach shepasot nami dechol tos ein machzirun l'chein umrani de'ein limchos biyad mi she'eino chozer. It's unbelievable. Eliyah Rabbah. The Eliyah Rabbah says, we should lechatchila be machzir tos, but ein limchos biyad mi she'eino chozer. Okay, yesh al mi lismoch, if they're not going to be going back. It's a fascinating and fabulous psak from the Eliyah Rabbah. Now again, the poskim don't bring this down, the modern day poskim, but it's a psak to have in your back pocket. Meaning, what happens, Taka? You're stuck, especially, like I said, you end up sometimes stuck where it's mamish every word. Every 2 words, it's torture. So, okay, get up there and whisper in his ear if you can. But if you can't, so ein limchos biyad mi she'eino chozer. Now happens to be that the Aruch HaShulchan is matmiya on the Sefer HaManig Bichlal. The Aruch HaShulchan is usually, more willing to be mekel b'davar. The Aruch HaShulchan says, what's the Medrash you're bringing down? It's a Medrash in Shir HaShirim. Not a Medrash in Halacha, it's a Medrash in Shir HaShirim. Medrash in Shir HaShirim brings down an idea that v'diglo alai halva, that even if, they call, the Medrash, he says, is talking about an Amma Oretz who sits down with a Sefer, and he doesn't know how to read it. So Rebbe Hashem still loves that, right? He still has a chavivus for an Amma Oretz. He's not talking about reading B'tzibur, talking about Stam, a guy who's reading, by himself, wherever he is. So the Aruch HaShulchan, therefore, feels that the Maral ben Chaviv's chiluk, at least, is the one you should follow. And that if it's a toast that is ishtana in Yin B'Haki, then be choser. If not, then not. And that's, again, l'chatchila, that's how we're knowing. But as I said, divrei chacham benachas nishmaim, and you have to know who should be yelling out and who should not. You have to know if it's nishtana inyan or not nishtana inyan. You have to know that the Eliyah Rabbah brings down that those who are not choser ein limchos biyadim. The Bach says that's the minig, and so even though we paskin lechatchila, like the Ramah, like the chiluk of the second chiluk of Rabbi Chaviv, but at the end of the day, I would say if you're mesupuk, if you should be, machzir, and you think it's going to be mevazah the guy, that maybe the suffix should go lechumra, not to be mevazah the guy. I would add one more piece, a fascinating piece, and that's the following. I told you, I got a flight to catch Sunday night. There's so much to talk about here. The Mechaber brings down that if you made a mistake and you didn't read 3 psukim, right, or you skipped the pasuk, so the halacha is you have to be choser, right? That's another pasuk. No, if you skip the pasuk, you have to be choser. But that's only, says the Pri Megadim, on Shabbos. This comes up all the time. I've seen this many times. I've had this in my shul before as well. Stam, Monday or Thursday or Shabbos afternoon, someone skips a pasuk. Very common, especially, different Sidurim have different divisions where to stop the aliyos, especially Monday, Thursday, Shabbos afternoon. The truth is that the rules for stopping the aliyos are you need 3 psukim. You can't stop within 3 psukim of a parsha. You can't start within 3 psukim of a parsha. And you shouldn't end on an inyan ra. Aside from that, there's no halacha to it. There's hanhagos that are done. And if you open up different sidurim, you open the Rilheim versus the Art Scroll. I have a yek who lanes by me Monday, Thursday. So he always asks me, where do we stop? Because his Rilheim stopping point is not the Art Scroll stopping point. So where do we stop? So, my klal psak is always go with Art Scroll. Because less people are going to yell at you then. It's amazing. When I first came into my shul, and there was a shaila about what to do about avarachimim on Shabbos, Mevorchim, Rosh Chodesh Av. So there's a famous Maisa with that. So Rav came into the shul. I had this Biyaya Maisa. Rav came into the shul, and what do you do Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Av? Half the shul is saying, say avarachimim. Half the shul is saying, don't say avarachimim, Shabbos, Mevorchim, Rosh Chodesh Av. So the Rav turns to one of the Baal Batim and he says, what's the minig? He says, the minig is to fight. That's just the minig. That's the minig in the shul. Right? So do you say or not? So one of the Baal Batim told me, she showed me the Beferish Art Scroll instructions. What else is there? Beferish Art Scroll instructions. That's what you do. Right? Everybody knows, it's the Luach Ezra's Torah, not the Art Scroll instructions, the Psak Halacha. Right? Where's the Psak Halacha? But the Halacha dictates that if it's a Shabbos, of course, there's a word skip, there's a pasuk skip, you have to be choser. But if it's Monday or Thursday, or Shabbos afternoon, as long as you read 3 whole psukim, you're not choser. Why not? Because you're going to be mashlim on Shabbos anyway. In other words, a Monday, Thursday, and the Ramah, the Pri Megadim brings down as well, that if it's Yom Tov, the same thing. Although the Mishnah Berurah in Bir Halacha says if it's the Iker Chovas Hayom, then not. But it's not the Iker Chovas Hayom, then okay, you missed it. So the whole problem is that you have to be mashlim Parshi Yosef. Monday, Thursday, Shabbos afternoon have to read 3 psukim to each of 3 people. One person has to read 4 psukim. Even then, b'diavad, if you already said Kaddish after the Krias HaTorah, and you only read 3, 3, and 3, so you're Yotzei, right? We're going to read 9 psukim b'yavo Amalek. But l'chatchila, you're reading 10 psukim. So if I read 3 psukim, even if I skipped a pasuk, but I read 3 psukim, okay, good. Yotzei. So the Mishnah Berurah in Bir Halacha here in Kuf Mem Beis brings down, so what about a toast in the Kriya on a Monday or a Thursday or a Shabbos afternoon? We had 3 psukim besides that. Are you choser? In other words, l'chora pashtus would be that if I have 3 psukim that I read, so then I didn't get the 4th pasuk because there's a toast in the pasuk. Okay, good. So there's a toast in the 4th pasuk. I didn't get the 4th pasuk. I still have 3 psukim. So is it any worse? Right? Is it garua? The Mishnah Berurah in Bir Halacha is misupuk b'davar, because he says maybe it is worse. He brings down a Yerushalmi, and the Yerushalmi brings down that if the mitar game is mitar game and he made an error, that you have to be choser. In the Targum today, we don't have a miturgum. If the miturgum it makes an error, he has to be choser. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the miturgum definitely is not ma'akev. For Rabbi, we don't have a miturgum today, even though I would love to see one. I'd love to see it. The emes says it's our Krias HaTorah today is a pella. Because the Krias HaTorah is that people, zero kol b'ravel, you should know what's in there. People don't, mamish, don't hear it. They don't hear it, they don't know what's going on in there. But, we're not metargim in laws, and there's reasons for that. We should have a shtickle yediyah in what's going on in there. So the Mishnah Berurah says, maybe from there you see a raya that which is not ma'akev, still you're chozer on. He says maybe not, because maybe the metargim is different in that there he's actually berabim teaching the Torah shlok yilchasa. As the metargim makes an error, metargim is there to teach people derech yilchuba, halacha l'maisa, and he's not getting halacha l'maisa because he got it wrong. Then you're chozer. But in the kriya where there's a toast in the kriya, maybe not chozer. He's not sure about it. He's not sure. He's mesupet b'davar. So I once had bihayamaisa. One time I had in my shows a leibetik a Shabbos afternoon. Had a Shabbos afternoon. Tell you the truth, I don't remember the exact toast, but I had a bar mitzvah. I think he was like 13, 14 years old. He was learning Shabbos afternoon. The Kollel was like 6 psukim long, and he kept making the same mistake in the first pasuk over and over again. And I kept correcting him, and he kept making the same mistake. And he kept correcting him, kept making the same mistake. It's fine. I said, just go on. Just go on. Wow, did that get busy? That got lebedik. People, wow, where, what? Who's this rabbi? And where do you get this from? And, Rabbi Wein would have never done that. And, it got very lebedik. There was, in fact, a visiting Rav there who was he was very upset by it. So I showed him the Biur Halacha. The Biur Halacha brings this down. Again, he's mesupet b'davar, but he's note there to say, if you look at the Dirsha Mishnah Berurah brings down the Biur Halacha saying, you don't have to be chozer. It's good. So this way, when you look at the Dirsha Mishnah Berurah, you always have to look at the original source, because it's not necessarily quoted exactly as is. But there is a stout suffix, and again, here it's a sfek sveka, meaning there's a suffix to argue that on a Monday or Thursday, even the Rambam will be masking that a toast is not chozer. You don't have to be chozer, because you're going to read it on Shabbos? Okay. It's fair to say no, because a toast is worse than a dilu. Okay, maybe. But there's also the Sfar of the Sefer HaManig, and the Bach, and the Trumas Hadeshen, and the Aliyah Rabbah. So no, a toast stam is never chozer. So there, it's a sfek sveka, meaning efsher that Monday, Thursday, even according to the Rambam, shita not chozer. You don't pass even if you are chozer according to the Rambam, but we passing like the Sefer HaManig. So I wouldn't lechatchila just say, okay, ignore all toyos on a Monday or Thursday. But I always breathe a sigh of relief, especially when there's a korei who's not such a bucky. When he gets through 3 psukim, I feel like, okay, I can relax. Right? He got through 3 psukim, now I can relax, we're good, except that you can't relax if he's going to stop in the wrong spot within 3 psukim of the parsha. That's always a worry. I always say the biggest avla, and they corrected it now in the Hebrew edition, the Art Scroll Chumash, when they printed the Chumash, they took out the pays and samachs. So you're killing every rav. You have to know the pays and samachs. You got to know where the stops are.
But if you make a mistake in the first 3 psukim, maybe if you want to do this fake business, maybe he'll read 3 psukim not good afterwards.
Yeah, nechanami, 100%. So I have had that sometimes where it's a mistake in the first, couple of psukim, go on, and then, okay, just make sure you read those psukim correctly. But I'm saying this Shabbos afternoon, this particular Maisa I think it was 6 times they corrected this toast, and every time he read it the same way again. Why? Ich weiß nicht. Why he couldn't get it correct? He couldn't, but it was bo mayim ad nofesh. I said, okay, just leave it, let him go on. He read the psukim. The next Shabbos morning, then, Tak, I'll tell you one thing that's for sure, though, is that when I have that, if I have that ever during the week, then on Shabbos morning, when the Kohen reads that pasuk, I make sure to pay careful attention. You better get it right now, because we don't have the weekday to fall back on. So Shabbos morning is different. But the emes is, there is strong sorrow to rely on here. Now, the truth is, I didn't get to anything I wanted to talk about tonight, because I really wanted to talk about what happens if you find the toast in the Sefer Torah, because that's really when it gets lebedik. I'll just give you a quick hagdama. No, I won't. We're out of time. I'll give you a quick hagdama, and then I'll stop with that. I had a Rebbe in Yeshiva a couple of years ago told me that he had a Ma'aseh in his shul on Shabbos, not in this community, a different community. The Rav wasn't there. They found a toast in the Sefer Torah in the middle of Krias HaTorah. They put the Sefer Torah away, took a new Sefer Torah out, started from the beginning of the Aliyah without a bracha. So I said, it's muradik. So it's muradik. I said, there's so many shitos in what to do when you find the toast in the Sefer Torah. It's very hard to do something that goes like none of them. I said, you managed in your shul, you managed to go like nobody. Not like the Mordechai, not like the Rambam, not like the Rashba, not like the Rav, not like the Ramah. You manage like nobody. So that taka takes, some sort of work, but to see that in Yirtzeh Hashem, what to do. So maybe we'll have a chance to be Ma'arech and Mashlim some other time. Shkach again for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And the Yirtzeh Hashem, we should just be zocha to be masik shmaitza, leave it to Hilchasa.